no need to fear. Underdog is here.
My name is Susan Boyle. I am 47. I dreamed a dream in time gone by.
Say something with that great radio voice.
When you're listening to nothing but the best of oldies, you're listening to Magic 98.9. Well, when I was 14 years old, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. When I was 14, I kind of listened to one of our area radio announcers. And I went as a field trip to go meet the guy, and he looked nothing like what he sounded like. So I asked him about that, and he said to me, listen, radio is defined theater of mind. And so when he said theater of mind, I just said, well, hey, I can't be an actor, I can't be an on-air personality, but the voice just became something of a development over years, and I went to school for it.
But the tigers come.
And hopefully somebody from one of these television or radio say, hey, I need a voiceover, or I need something.
Try 100 times to get up, and if I fail 100 times, if I fail and I give up, do you think that I'm ever going to get up? No. But if I fail, I try again and again and again. You will find that strength to get back up like this.
Throughout the history of mankind, there have been odd-defying adversity-overcoming stories all over the world dating back to the Old Testament. From Noah and the Ark, David and Goliath, the Book of Job, all the way over to more recent stories such as Susan Boyle and the homeless man with the golden voice, Ted Williams, landing a job from a simple YouTube video. Most people never even realize that Abraham Lincoln, Henry Ford, Walt Disney, H.J. Heinz, and P.T. Barnum all filed bankruptcy before making it big. Although they all come from different backgrounds, religions, and parts of the world, they all have the same character trait in common. No matter how bad things got, they never gave up, and when they saw an opportunity, they took action to capitalize on it and persevered through tough times and any adversity that was thrown at them. It doesn't matter whether the economy is good or bad. It doesn't even matter if you haven't been dealt the very best cards in this crazy game that we call life. If you take responsibility for your life and well-being, there isn't anything you can't accomplish. Hi, this is Nathan Jurwitz, and although I was picked on as a kid and then as a result ended up being homeschooled and never went to college, I'm not here to tell you my story. Instead, I'm going to prove this to you today by sharing a story with you about how one man experienced more pain in 6 months than most people experience in a lifetime, and persevered and made things happen by bird-dogging deals at the foreclosure auction with no money, not even enough money for a deposit. Now, this story may inspire some of you. It may even make you feel guilty, but I promise you, by the end of this video, any fears that you may have had of failure will be wiped completely away. Any time you face defeat, been laughed at and humiliated, had your spirit crushed, faced rejection, experienced shame, you will strengthen this part of you that you identify with him. Yet this one person reached inside himself and overcame all that inner negativity by overcoming his biggest critic, himself. This is about redemption, baby. And it's within your reach too. If you lack confidence that you can't work in this foreclosure market, that it's too hard or you'll never make it, that's that inner voice of failure talking. But know that you can reach inside and bring out the best within you and emerge a success. If auction bird dog Barney can do it, you can do it too. Take this step, reach for the best within you, and become the success that you know you can be. Most of our six-figure earners are nothing special as people. Some were broke, had credit that would embarrass a wino, and a couple of them were even living in their cars. Yet they walked the path we showed them and became new people. Maybe it was in spite of their former lives. Maybe it was because of their former lives. Point is, they are special. And they were all along. They were just waiting for a way to prove it to the world. For those of you that have joined my partner Chris and I over the last 7 days with the first 2 videos, then you're ready to watch this video. And I want you to know that I appreciate you taking the time out of your day and wonderful comments and feedback. If you haven't watched video 1 and 2, you may want to check those out first on the right hand side of this page underneath this video. For everyone else, let's go meet auction bird dog Barney.
Okay guys, we are joined today with one of my bird dogs, Barney. And Barney, this is just going to be an interview between you and me. And we actually met at the courthouse. So do you want to tell people how we actually met? You just kind of saw me from a distance and just came up to me and approached me, right?
Sure. Chris was in the courthouse and I knew his background, so I went up and approached him when he was with some clients talking. I waited until he was finished and made a presentation to go to the courthouse for him, represent for him, buy for him, and bring him properties that he pre-approves. By the way, I run my program, how it's set up.
So, Barney, one of the big points is some people say, how do you find cash buyers? How do you find people like me that are interested in buying properties at auction? And one of the big takeaways right now is you found me because I was just simply in there at the courthouse at that exact time, right?
Correct. At the right time, at the right place, if your eyes and ears are always open in real estate, you too can find a buyer in the most inopportune places. In a courthouse, in a store, while you're buying your child a toy at a toy store. They're everywhere. You just have to keep your ears and eyes open, get familiar with your surroundings and your people around you, and then where the real players are in the real world of real estate.
Now, Barney, talk about like it. You know, you said your first 6 months of doing this was a little bit nerve-wracking and it was a little bit of a struggle. Talk about what you had to go through.
Well, the funny being, my first house I bought was in January, and Chris actually ended up buying that property. It was on Jared Drive. February 15th, I was caught in a head-on collision, and I was in the hospital for 11 days at that point, where I came out of the hospital after surgery wearing this particular instrument, which I'll place on me so you can see what I went through my first 6 months in business, January through 6 months. I sat in a chair like this with a computer in my lap, and I bought properties in an auction, similar to what Chris is saying online. I used a bird dog at the auction to bid for me, and in return I paid them a small fee and did what I call sell that property same day to Chris for a commission.
Okay, so in that case, you just kind of like orchestrated the deal.
Okay, hold up real quick. Let's pause the video. Did you guys just hear what he just said? He didn't have any cash, and he really wasn't even capable of doing all the legwork. So he stepped out of his comfort zone and found someone to do all the bird dog legwork for him, and then ended up building relationships with cash buyers and ended up still making money on the deal. Okay, guys, he had to make this happen. And I'm not suggesting this. I'm not telling you to go out and find bird dogs and cash buyers and be the middleman's middleman. But this is the only choice. This is the only alternative this man had. No excuses. Okay, let's carry on.
So I mean, talk about that. So you're in that neck brace for 6 months, right?
Correct.
That's so you got, you're starting out. You have little or no money, under a lot of stress. I'm sure you got, I don't know if you got medical bills. I don't know what your situation is, but you've got, and what was that like?
It was a little tough. I didn't know which direction I was going to go, but I was confident that I had enough knowledge in the industry of auctions to be able to perform as a bird dog as long as I had good clients to purchase the properties from me same day. I figured I could make a small enough income while I was in my situation, $2, $3, $4, even $5,000 a month. I had no idea that my career would turn into a $20,000 a month career during the 6 month period that I was sitting in a chair having people bird dog for me down at the auction while I was pre-selling properties from the comforts of my chair at home.
So in this case, you're just kind of like the orchestrator. You're not using your own money, correct?
Correct. No money.
Okay, so in some cases you're doing the bird dogging yourself, but in some cases you have bird dogs doing the work for you, and then you're just building relationships with cash buyers. A lot of people think that they have to have money to do this business starting out. What would you say? What would you say to that?
If I can do it from a hospital bed wearing one of these things, anybody can do it with no money.
Are you guys listening to this? Wake up, people. Now I'm going to go over the mechanics of how he's putting his transactions together towards the end of this video. But listen to what this guy is saying. Okay, let's continue.
Okay. So even the deposit money, I think a lot of people kind of get hung up on. They've said, well, at my auction you got to put 5% down, or at my auction you got to put 10% down, or I know in some states you got to pay it all up front right there. Essentially, in that case, you're using your passive cash investor. Guys like Chris McLaughlin, they're putting up the money, but because you're doing all the research and title and everything, and you have either bird dogs working for you, depending on how big your operation, or a lot of people starting out may do it themselves, they're getting, you're using all their money and they're paying you a fee in exchange for that. So it's a win-win, correct?
Correct. Usually it's a win-win for some investor that wants to buy and hold the property for a long period of time, and that's his win. Our win is getting him the property and getting our pay that day. So in essence, it's a win for us because we're in need of a cash in fluctuation immediately, and it's also a need for the end investor wanting to find somebody to do everything for them because Chris doesn't have time, or you don't have time, or the other investors don't have time to do the research, the legwork, go to the auction, pick up checks, record documents, everything. So they'll rely on you to perform that service for them for a fair pay. Right.
And it looks like you've done well. I know that you were kind enough to come here and spend some time with me and Chris. You've got a list of deals that you've done. Talk about what you've been able to accomplish. I guess these are all deals you've done in the last 6 months, or in 2010, or
2010. This covers the total 2010.
Okay.
And Barney, how many of those did I buy in 2010 from you? About maybe 4?
Almost 10.
Oh, I bought 10?
Almost 10.
Okay.
Okay, you were close though. We'll edit that right out, okay?
That's quite all right.
Okay, here, basically, this is my profit column. This is my what I expenditured out. So you can see my expenditures out. This is what the client paid me
Right.
for the property.
And then the third line.
And the third line is the difference in profit. Now, the bigger ones you see are properties. I work multiple avenues of real estate through the auctions. We buy them and fix them and sell them. We also flip them to an investor for $10,000 or $12,000 without doing anything, or we do the same day cash pay.
So you may just wholesale to them. You may assist the client with the rehab and resell the property and split the profits. So what does that all add up to over last year in profit?
Well, you see right here on the bottom line, we spent this amount. This is the amount the total sales went out for cash, and this is the difference in profit for the year.
$199,465.21 in revenue in a little bit less than a year. Now, he had partners on some of those deals, so he still cleared about $100,000. But guys, he did this with a broken neck. So, is there any reason that you can think of that you would not be able to do this? I'm waiting. Okay, let's continue.
Okay.
And that is only through November. That does not include December.
Okay, awesome.
So Barney, I think the takeaway here is that you literally had broken almost every bone in your neck, and for a 6-month period, actually when I first met you, because I think you had actually already purchased the property on Jared.
Correct.
When I first met you, you were pretty incapacitated, correct? I mean, you were in a lot of pain.
Yeah, I look
And
like
you were
Munster.
That's great. But ultimately, you approached me and you said, "Here, let me get your phone number. Let me call you when I have a good deal." And the big takeaway for me and for I think people watching this video is, you were still able to use the system that you had put in place to make some serious cash. You and your partner made $199,000 last year bird dogging at the auction. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. That is a major takeaway, and that's why when I started to discover just how much money Barney was making and some of these other guys making, I thought, you know what? Good for them. And I'm glad to continue to pay it. And but the big takeaway was, wow, this is also kind of an underground thing out there that a lot of people don't want people to know about. And would you say that there's a lot of folks at the auction that aren't necessarily excited about the fact that maybe some of these secrets are going to get released to the public?
In today's market, probably for the next several years, I don't really see a problem with having more buyers come in, because I believe in the future that I read and follow Chris in Nathan's webinar information, and I believe it's going to be a 2 to 3 year fluctuation of more properties than all the investors on the planet could probably come and buy. So I don't think it's going to be a problem. There's enough to go around for everybody.
And the worse it gets, probably the easier is going to be able to find guys like Chris that will buy these properties, because they're always looking for good deals and good opportunities.
Right, but they don't have the time again.
Right. In this economy, in this recession that we're in, with the the doom and gloom on the news, obviously although I don't know how bad it really is, but obviously it's pretty bad. If you were not bird dogging houses right now, if you didn't have that in your life, what would you be doing?
I have no idea. Because of my neck situation, I'm unable to work, literally. So I don't know what I would be doing for a living.
Okay.
I'm grateful to have found Chris. I'm grateful to have found the other people that I work with and bird dog for and buy for. I can say a creation of relationships over the next couple of years will slow down your future purchases at auctions, but it will never stop your income.
Right. Okay.
So Barney, let's kind of go back in time. How did you actually learn how to bird dog at the auction? How did you learn it?
Well, my first investor taught me the buy and hold technique that Chris uses. And from there, while at the auction, I was approached by other people because they liked the way I did things and handled myself. And one thing led to another, and I started buying for them, and so on and so forth. And that's how I became a bird dogger for other clients. So being there helps.
So just showing up sometimes.
Just showing
up, watching how it's done.
And then if you're in a county where it's done online, which has recently happened now, I guess knowing how to do your research to track down a lot of the people that are bidding, correct?
Well, if you're there in the beginning and it goes online, you're going to know those players anyway.
Right.
Okay? So a little trick is go to the surrounding counties, because a lot of the players that when it went online don't like online, so they go to surrounding counties and move their companies.
Right.
So go to surrounding counties, find the people to bird dog for in the county they don't want to be online for, and there you go. Simple Simon.
Cool. Okay, now to obviously there's going to be a lot of people that are seeing this video, and I think that you're a huge inspiration to them. So the person that's sitting there right now in their chair, looking at their computer, watching this video, telling themselves, you know what, I'm not sure if I can do this. What would you say to that person?
Get out of your chair and go to an auction. If you don't investigate, you're never going to learn. If you never learn, you're never going to make money in real estate.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Chris, so are we done? Are we going to go drive to some houses, or what's the deal?
Let me just pull back the curtain real quick and about the very important topic of no money down, no cash out of your pocket. So if someone is sitting there watching this video right now, and let's say that they only have a few $1,000s to their name, and they say, you know what, this is exciting to me, what are you going to tell them to do?
First of all, locate cash buyers. Cash buyers are your main source of income. Second of all, turn that cash into a cashier's check so you don't spend it. Go to the auction. Just sit and watch and wait. Opportunity will arise. That's my suggestion.
Okay.
Excellent. I think the big takeaway, folks, is that Barney has found a great niche that has, even when some tragedy strikes your life, you're still able to overcome that. You're still able to make a whole heck of a lot of money with you and your partner to the tune of $199,000 last year. And I assume that the future is very, very bright over the next few years for buying for folks at the auction, correct?
Absolutely.
And now you're actually looking to get out of just doing Polk County and Hillsborough County, you're expanding into other counties, right?
Correct. We're going Orange County, Osceola County, and we're also going into Hillsborough as well as Polk.
There we go. So the business, what's your goal? If you did $199,000 in 2010, what is your goal for 2011?
$1 million in 4 counties.
$1 million in 4 counties.
It's not much of an expansion per county, so it's a small expansion per county. But if I expand per counties, I can quadruple my income.
Notice how nonchalantly and just completely natural Barney just walks in and says, next year my goal is to make $1 million. All I got to do is expand by 3 counties. And that's it. He doesn't let a bunch of mental garbage and negative thinking creep in. He's just determined to go make it happen. And you know what? Even if he doesn't end up meeting his goal, if he only reaches it by half, he's still making a decent living. And I think we can all learn from that. Okay, let's continue.
Doing the same thing.
Makes sense. So you just need to find a few other people to work with you, and the same systems are in place. Talk a little bit about how you check for title.
We call or text our title company that performs a title search same day, next day, or even within minutes while you're on the phone. So we text, we call, we get our title search prior to, the day of auction. We inform all of our clients what the title is about, what's available, so they have all the information available on that property to make a proper decision on what they are prepared to purchase from you at.
And talk to us about some of the opportunities that clouds in the title can present. In particular, I think we had a property on Longfellow.
Lots of issues can come up in a title. You can have a HOA lien, a tax lien, a county city ordinance lien. You can have a Ford Motor credit lien. You can have many and multiple liens. But in the business today, there are ways to get those properties negotiated to alleviate that lien, to help with additional profits for your client. Again, you're performing a service, a bird dog service, so the more you can make your clients happy with whatever service you can help them with, the better it off it is for you, that they'll want to get more properties down the line.
Okay, excellent. And the specific example we were thinking about in Longfellow is that some of the people at the auction that maybe didn't have a whole lot of experience saw this lien there and thought, maybe I don't want to bid on that property because it's got a $7,000 lien.
Correct.
But in your experience, you actually have a person who's pretty good at removing liens, right?
Correct.
And so that's some hidden profit there that a layperson wouldn't necessarily know. But somebody like yourself who's been around the block a little bit kind of saw that and said, hey, that's an opportunity.
Barney, let's just say that you move to California and you don't have the relationship with the title company that you have now. You were dropped off in California. You wanted you to start doing the same thing in California that you're doing here. Obviously, you got to find a title company. Where would you look? Where is the first place that you would go to try to find a title company that understands foreclosure auctions?
Well, first of all, I would stay with a small title company. They're going to care about you more than if you walked into a title company like Stewart Title or one of those other big title companies.
Right. Okay.
Get a relationship started with them, and again, promise them that every closing that you bring to the table will go through their company. Make some offer that wants them to work with you to acquire the proper information that you need prior to the auction.
Okay. Now, are you able to work it out so that, you're able, usually when you present an opportunity like that to a title company, are you usually able to work it out so that they're not going to charge you any upfront fees?
Usually what we do, if there's a title company that we're working with in different areas like Hillsborough or Orange County or Osceola,
right,
we use the same title company in all of the state of Florida. But if I'm in a different area, I put that on the HUD on the close.
Okay.
And I have the buyer pay for that on the close, either through an assignment or whatever closing. I push that responsibility to the buyers so that there's no upfront cost to you again to get that done.
Okay.
Talk to us about your typical day. Now you are a full-time auction bird dog, and you've obviously made quite a good amount of money doing that. But let's say someone wanted to do this for maybe 1 to 2 to 3 days out of the week. What would their day look like? What do you do?
Well, first of all, you get up every day that you want to go down to the auction. The day before, you do all your research to make sure that it's proper and accurate for your client. You call your client and you get approval from your client to go ahead and purchase that property. At that point, I would get all my paperwork ready. I would go down to the auction. I would sign up and register under the auction rules. Some states have you register, some don't have you register. Whatever is according to that state's laws is what I would follow. I would go sit in the auction. I would watch what's going on and see who's talking to who. Always keep your eyes open in an auction and learn who the players are. Those players have got real money and they'll be willing to work with anyone and make 50% of the profit. So Then I go ahead and wait for my case to be called. I call my case. I'm awarded the bid. At that point, I go downstairs to the courthouse. I step into the courthouse when they call my name, and I pick up my paperwork. After that, I go to the bank. I get cashier's checks, or I go to, depending on which way I'm going. If I'm buying it for my client that is my partner that wants to keep it and fix it, or if I'm wholesaling it out to someone like Chris, I would call Chris up and say I need this amount of money in these cashier's checks.
Okay. So, let's pause right here real quick. Guys, the deposit is coming from the cash buyer. A lot of people have said, well, what if you put down the deposit and then the cash buyer doesn't close the next day? You know, what happens? Well, your buyer was the one that initially put up the deposit. So it's going to be very unlikely that he's just going to walk away from that, because remember, the bird dog and the passive investor have already made this clear. They already know what they're doing, and they've already come to some type of agreement as to what is the maximum that someone like Chris would pay for this property. So it's the agreement first, Chris's money for the deposit, Chris's cashier's check, and then once that's done, Barney gets paid.
Correct.
Okay. And then what?
And then Barney, talk to us a little bit about the politics of the auction. And let's assume that a lot of the politics of the auction, now that it's gone online, in some counties in Florida have kind of gone away and dissipated. But without naming any names, tell us kind of what happens if someone bids on a property that maybe that another person that goes to the auction wants. What happens? What are the politics down there?
Okay. Politics are just like in every business. You always got different personalities. There's always 10 or 12 real players down there, and everybody always wants the best deal that they can get. So in the interim, there's always confusion on properties here and there where you get in an argument. I've seen arguments almost to a fist fight in the hallway. So, or you get in arguments to the point where someone will go down and file a grievance against that purchase of the property, and then that'll put a kink in the person's cash flow, because now they've put all that money out and there's going to be a hold on it before a judge approves it. There's lots and lots of things that can go on. In my experience, stand back as often as possible and let it go on. And for you, the best way to make money is wait for the cloud to clear and get that property for your investor. That's it.
In a lot of cases, you could, even if you weren't actually buying the property, I know that I've seen this done, I don't know if you've ever done this, but where you see someone buy the property at the auction, and if it's done online, you go in and figure out who did buy it. And you already know that you may have a buyer for that property. So you can contact them and say, hey, you just bought that for $40,000. I got a buyer at $60,000. If we can work a deal, you could pay me a fee for doing that. Have you ever done a deal like that?
Yep, I sure have. I've done a deal where I walked out in the hallway and I had 2 signed assignments. He assigned it to me and I assigned it to another investor like Chris. We picked up our money within 1 hour and 30 minutes. So lots and lots of opportunities are available in the auction. You have to keep your eyes and ears open. I'll continue to say that always have your eyes and ears open in the auction. Everything there is real. Everybody there is real. Real money makes you real money.
Okay.
There you have it. Real money makes you real money. Nate, I think we're done.
Okay.
Okay, so before we go take Barney out to look at some properties, let's review. Barney started with no money of his own. How did he accomplish this? Well, let's go back to the second video where I talk about the evolution of an auction bird dog. He starts out bird dogging for just 1 or 2 investors and uses one of 2 different strategies. The first one is to bid for a fee for another investor. You accomplish this by having the investor deposit their funds in the escrow account of the auction or get certified funds made out to the appropriate party. This, of course, depends on your state and exact auction process. Some auctions require 5% down, some 10%, and some require the whole thing right then and there. Either way, it's coming from the investor, not you. After you have done your research, you are communicating with the investor as to what you think you should bid on and at what price you want to get it for. Now here's what protects you and your investor. There is a special form that me and Chris paid thousands of dollars to have created called the Third Party Bidder Agreement. This is an upfront agreement between the auction bird dog and the passive investor that explains all of the responsibilities up front and allows you to bid with their money on their behalf for a fee. Now this is scenario 1. Scenario 2 is when you actually joint venture with your investor on a rehab flip and split the deal 50-50. The split can be modified, of course, depending on what you negotiate with your investor and who's going to fill what responsibilities. Again, a different form that me and Chris paid thousands of dollars to have made called the Joint Venture Rehab and Resale form. Now, if you want cash now, the first option is probably better, but the paychecks are bigger with this one. Barney has done both of these, and we're going to show you some examples in a second. Okay, now let's get back to the evolution of an auction bird dog. After you have done a handful of deals and you have money to start putting down your own deposits and you have a much better feel for what buyers buy, you can start bidding on your own behalf and let cash investors fight over who wants the properties. Your profit margins will go up. You bid on your own behalf and then do what's called an assignment of bid using a special form over to the appropriate cash investor. And when the deed is issued, it goes straight to your investor and you are reimbursed before all of this happens. In some states that don't allow assignment of bids, you simply give the investor a quitclaim deed after he has reimbursed you for anything you have into the deal plus your fee. And then he simply records it immediately once the title has been issued to you. Now this strategy is riskier and I don't recommend it until you have purchased between 10 and 15 houses for someone else first and you have a cash reserve and a better feeling for your market. So right now let's just focus on bird dogging for other investors like how Barney has been doing it. Okay, let's go check out a couple properties that Barney has flipped and also hear more about his neck injury.
Okay, so we're here at, what was the address of this one?
This is 3423 Jared Lane, and this is actually a good teaching moment because this property is the property that Barney actually worked with another investor before I had discovered him at the courthouse auction, and it actually is a property that he then put on MLS. So if you remember back to our first video, I went through a lot of the properties I had purchased at auction, and frankly I hadn't shown you this one. Why? Because maybe it wasn't such a steal. Of course, Barney says it was a steal, right?
It was a steal.
It was a steal.
100%
okay.
steal.
Yeah, 100% steal. Now it is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath.
Yes.
And when I took it over, and I paid $65,000 for it.
$65,000.
And you made $25,000 or so. You and your partner.
Correct.
But I think the point here is that if I had found you earlier as a bird dog, what do you think I would have saved?
Probably $10,000 to $15,000.
Okay, so if I would have found this, you bought it at auction for approximately $35,000.
Correct.
Okay, so he would have tacked on maybe $5,000 to $7,000. I would have picked it up for $42,000. So actually, I think I would have saved a lot more than that. Or you would have tacked on even more than $5,000 or $7,000.
Well, we put $5,000 in repairs into it. So
that's
if you add that, closing costs.
So essentially, it's a pretty easy sale. I mean, the cash buyer that you found, whose money you used to buy this, because remember, you did this entire deal with none of your own money. You essentially just went up to him and said, "Hey, I'll find the deal. I'll help. I'll oversee the rehab. We split the profits. You really don't have to do that much other than just come up with the cash, and you guys split $25,000. That was it, right?"
Correct.
Pretty easy sale for if you're someone that's sitting on a bunch of cash, then it's really a no-brainer. The return that he got on his money, the time frame that he got on his money, was absolutely ridiculous.
Well, and here's the thing. Also, I didn't have many holding costs because when I actually purchased it through the MLS, I had no holding costs and I could rent it. It was rent ready. So, and I actually have a tenant in there right now, so that's why we're not walking through it, for $950 a month. So I bought it for $65,000. It's currently rented for $950 a month. And it used to be, back in 2006, 2005, that as long as your rent would equal 1% of your purchase price, you knew that you were doing well. So that meant if you bought something for $65,000, you know that you need to rent it for at least $650. Well, here I bought something for $65,000, and I have rented it for way more than $650. It's actually rented for $300 more. That's $3,600 extra a year on top of that. So very good deal. These deals are plentiful right now in all of the big four: California, Arizona, Nevada, and Florida. They're out there. Lots of good deals for cash passive investor landlords like me. But in all the states, these deals are happening all day long for people like Barney. When he's partnered with another investor who's going to pay cash for something, he's going to go out there and make a whole bunch of money.
So, Barney, the day you bought this at auction was the day before you got in your car accident?
Correct.
So what was that like? I mean,
well, I bought the house, I came by and I keyed it up, locked it up, secured the property. I left to go meet with another investor, such as Chris, that I was getting ready to negotiate bird dogging for. And on the way home, I was in my accident.
So was that, I mean, and what was that like? So the next day you're in the hospital and you're like, I got all these houses, I got to do all, I got to do all this stuff, and I'm, stuck in bed.
It's funny you should ask.
Yeah.
I woke up in my car with all the ambulance people and everything around me, and I'm saying, I got to get out of here. I've got to go to this house to set plants. And this was the exact house that I was trying to get out of my car to come set the landscaping plants at. So it was very weird to sell a house while I'm in the hospital bed to a future client that ended up being a future client for me to bird dog for. So
right. Okay.
So here's a real big takeaway. If you're saying to yourself, where do I find those investors? Obviously, the first spot is your foreclosure auction. Just go down to your foreclosure auction and find them there. But the second spot to find them is actually find the investors such as myself that were buying properties through the multiple listing service, because arguably they're going to want the nice $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 discounts that you can get when you buy it at auction.
Right, exactly. Okay, awesome. All right.
All right. I'm talking a little bit now with Chris and Nate about my injury. And I'll show you a quick little view of what it is. Just a quick little top view of it, so you can get a view of my scar. My scar is 11 inches long. It goes from the top of my head to the bottom of my shoulder blades. I have presently six bones that have been fused together in my neck, and those bones have been fused to my back. So, in alliteration, I don't have any mobility in my neck no longer to be able to look sideways up.
Right.
I can look down, but that's all. I can't look. This is all I can look at you, and that's all I can look up. So anybody can do it. If somebody can do it with a broken neck that's not even supposed to be walking, should be dead, should be crippled. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
You're trying to get a restricted driver's license?
Yeah, right now I'm working on a court order that will allow me to not drive with a seatbelt on, because in my opinion I only have one shot left in life, and I would rather take my own shot than leave it up to a seatbelt. So I'm fighting right now in court.
Because of the whiplash, right?
Yeah, because of whiplash. What it would do if my neck did get snapped forward, it would probably dislodge a lot of the screws in my neck, and then you can't put those screws back in.
What have the doctors told you, from here on out? What should you expect?
I can expect a lot of pain in the next 10 years. I can expect a shortened lifespan. I can expect not to do anything that I used to do that was physically fun. I've been limited basically to a chair. I mean, anybody can die when they're walking off of a curb. you know, or falling down in a bathtub, but literally I can die if somebody falls down on me in a line in the middle of public. So it's very, very scary, very concerning, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing for a living. I'm able to do what I'm doing for a living. I'm not restricted from doing what I'm doing for a living. So it doesn't matter whether you're physically handicapped, you know, mentally handicapped, or 60 years old or 22 years old just getting out of college. If you've got drive and initiative and you like the business, there's lots of investors that'll loan you money. There's lots of cash buyers like Chris and yourself out there that'll buy your houses. So no matter your limitations, don't allow your limitations to interfere with your life and what you want to take it to. Okay?
Okay, awesome.
There's the scar to prove it, guys. This is a real story. This is a real guy. You know, I'll be honest with you. When Chris had told me Barney's story and that he was selling all these houses, I almost didn't believe it. Heck, when I first started sitting down and talking to Barney towards the beginning of this interview, I almost couldn't believe it. But then as the day went by, in between takes, the only thing that Barney was doing the entire time, you know, in between takes when the camera wasn't on him, was asking me if he could start bidding for me in my county, in Hillsborough County, and asking me if I knew anyone that he could bid for. I mean, the guy is a machine, and he doesn't stop ever. And that sometimes that's all it takes. He took action, and he continues to take action, and that's all he did. That's all he did. If you persevere enough and you're talking to people about buying houses, you know, in the middle of a video shoot, I mean, eventually you're going to find cash buyers. Because I understand that's a big concern. A lot of people think they're not going to be able to find cash buyers. If Barney can do it.
Hey guys, it's Chris. We're here at 5521 Yarborough Lane in Lakeland. This is a property that actually was one of the first properties that Barney wholesaled to me from the auction. And this has been a nice little rental. We put a brand new roof on it, so we did have to do that. And Barney's just going to kind of show us the property and talk a little bit about it. So,
I got this property at the auction for Chris for a reasonable fee, and brought it to his attention. He was real happy with the location because it's right across the street from a school. So we're going to go on inside and take a look at the property now, and I'll walk you through.
Okay, and Barney, what did you end up picking up the property for? Do you remember at the auction?
I think I paid $50,000 for it. I sold it to Chris for $57,000. He put a new roof and a few entities into it. Still, again, he has no more than his max amount that he likes to buy at.
Okay, also, and when you say sold it to Chris, you really were using Chris's money from the very beginning.
Assigned it to Chris.
Right.
Using Chris's money, correct.
Okay, so you made roughly, so we'd have to look it up.
Between $6,000 and $7,500 on this property.
Right, for all your background work and all that kind of
correct.
stuff. Okay, awesome. And so this was 2 months ago. So you're at this point while this was happening. Were you still recovering from your neck injury, or what?
I'm still recovering today from my neck injury. So it just is every day it gets a little bit better. I'm able to do a little bit more. This house, I believe, was not one I was in condition enough to try to climb through windows and see the inside of the property exactly. So I evaluated accordingly.
Okay. All right, let's check it out.
Come on in. We bought this property. It needed pretty much a whole new kitchen. It wasn't in good enough shape for what Chris likes to hold properties at. So it looks to me like he put a whole new kitchen in the property. The carpets and floors and things like that needed some work, and it looks to me like he did all that too. Some staining on the doors, things along that lines.
Now, Chris, I know that when you rehab these properties, you always use the same tile.
Same exact tile. Now, this tile is not the tile we replaced because we didn't need to replace it.
Right.
But if I walked in this property and it needed new tile, or if it had laminate already on the flooring, typically I will replace it with the type of tile we like to use. we will typically repaint the property all using the same exact paint for all the properties I buy. It keeps costs low. These are our standard ranges and also refrigerators. So every single property we have is this type of brand refrigerator, this type of brand range. Why do we do that? Because it's easy once they go out. We can swap them around. We know exactly what the square footage is, and they're inexpensive. We just pick them up at Lowe's. So
okay. Okay. Anything else we should know about the property, Barney, or the deal? Do you remember any specifics about the deal?
The specifics that I know about the deal are that, again, I, as somebody who was hurt, was still yet able to go out and research a property well enough for a client that would be interested in purchasing that property that I'm bird dogging for.
Right.
And Barney, you actually, because you were hurt, and you and I didn't know each other that well, you were telling us earlier that you actually had another friend do your bidding for you. Is that right?
Correct, correct. What I did was, when I was in the hospital at home, I knew some people down at the auction from going to the auction. Well, I picked up the phone and asked them for a small fee, could they bid on that property for me using my account that I held funds in. With some counties allow you to have an escrow, so my investor would implement cash into that escrow that I could disperse as a deposit. So again, reminding you, their money, not my money. Using their escrow, I called and had somebody buy a property that I returned and turned sold to Chris.
And for instance, folks, if we're talking about California, one methodology that is used in California would be your investor typically going to buy a corporate name or a trust name. So if they're going to buy in a corporate name, they would simply make the cashier's check out to the corporation. You would bring with you a letter that's notarized from that corporation indicating that you as the bird dog are authorized to bid on this specific property. Now, that's for California. In Arizona, for instance, you actually have to have $10,000 and then you can put the balance down the next day. So they give you a little bit more time in Arizona. But in states like California and states like Nevada, it needs to be cashed that day. And again, that's not a problem because you've already obtained the authorization from your investor to bid on their behalf. And we actually have a legal document that I have had one of the largest law firms in Florida prepare for me that protects the investor and also protects the bird dog as well. So that's part of something we can talk about later.
Okay, awesome. All right, anything else?
Great.
Okay.
Okay, guys. So we just showed you two different examples of the several properties Barney flipped last year with none of his own money and with a broken neck. You're probably either feeling very inspired or very guilty that Barney has accomplished so much in just the past year. So this is what I'm going to do. You have a homework assignment that I'm going to give you with 3 simple tasks that I want you to start on now. First off, I want you to comment below with this video saying, if Barney can do it, I can do it too, as well as any other comments or questions you may have. Second, and this one may offend some people and even get me into trouble because it's not exactly politically correct, but I don't care, so I'm going to just do it anyways. Get a Bible and read the book of Job in the Old Testament. Job had everything and had it all taken away, but remained faithful to God anyways. You will see what happens at the end, but after you get done reading it, I want you to come back to this page and comment your thoughts on what you learned. And third, I want you to mark your calendar to check your email for Tuesday, January 18th at 3 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be releasing a video that puts everything we have talked about in the first 3 videos together so you will know what your plan of action is for the year 2011. Until next time, this is Nathan Jurowitz signing off.